Hello, and welcome to episode one of RDHAP Success video series. My name is Dr. Aaron Benitez, and I have been a practicing registered dental hygienist in alternative practice. Oof, let's just say RDHAP, okay? Since 2007. I worked as a full time practicing RDHAP for many years. And so the purpose of this video is to introduce myself and explain why I'm creating these video series. So these videos are designed for RDHAPs that are either never got started or feel that they didn't get a maybe a good solid education for whatever reason, or simply want to learn about the other opportunities in the RDHAP world. Now, disclosure, okay? This is not an RDHAP program. I want to make sure that is very clear. There are no certifications that's attached to watching these videos. Although I do teach in an RDHAP program, this is just a condensed format that is meant as a refresher and in no way replaces an accredited program. Okay. These videos are going to be about an hour long. This first video will be shorter, but from now on, the videos will be 60 minutes. And the reason why I'm creating them for 60 minutes, a condensed format basically of my lectures, is because let's say you're during lunch, you want to listen to one. It's kind of like a podcast, right? You don't necessarily have to look at what I'm sharing on the screen because I'll be narrating it. I'll be explaining what it is, maybe while you're driving, because I don't want you to drive and look at the video, of course. Um, and so I think 60 minutes is probably a good amount of time. So some of the videos that I'm going to go ahead and create, I created a lot of them already, but I need to kind of tweak them, are including like names like new RDHAP, now what? I'm still working on that name, okay? Different populations and facilities, skilled nursing facilities, otherwise known as SNFs, marketing and contracts, portable versus mobile equipment, dental hygiene notes, records, and dental practice softwares, pre-authorization process, otherwise known as TAR, applying to Medi-Cal, and a bunch of other topics that, you know, we'll go and probably I'll even do polls, see what interests some people more than others. Okay. And so one of the things that I like to go over, not that it's that important, but it ties it together, is who I am. I want to make sure you understand who I am. That way, you understand what I've done and why I urge you to utilize your experience and your knowledge to grow your business. Okay, this is not something that, I mean, I guess you could, but I don't really feel that it's something that you're going to learn in business school, for example. Go back and get an MBA. They don't really go into these details. So, first of all, this is who I am. Okay. Um, I'm not a dentist. The doctorate degree is an academic doctorate. Okay. It's in health sciences. Um, I am first generation, but I immigrated here from El Salvador. So salvi, if you, in case you don't know what that is, pupusas, stuff like that. Okay, cumbia, salsa. So I immigrated, and here in California, LA. I grew up in LA, Dodgers, Lakers. Um, I went to LA High, Los Angeles High School, and being a first generation student, I didn't realize it, but there was two pathways. Either you took the classes that you graduated high school, or you took the classes that you went to college. I guess nobody either didn't tell me or I just didn't pay attention. So I graduated and I didn't take the classes to go to college. Okay. But I probably just didn't pay attention. I took classes um, during high school for real estate. And in the reason why I took classes for real estate is because my dad was a real estate agent. And so, that was my role model. That's what I wanted to do. And so I figured, why not? Let's just do it. I did it for a couple of years. I sold some homes. I mean, I did something with it. Okay. But I hated it. At the time, I hated it. I just didn't feel that it was for me. And so, but I learned. I learned a lot. And I utilized that, what I learned with what I did with RDHAP. So once I was starting to move away from real estate, my family, because of real estate, bought a restaurant. It was Mexican in Pupusas, okay, in Salvi. And I learned a lot of business, and I learned how difficult it is and how much you can lose from it. We sold it, well, they sold it, um, pretty much broke even, and so difficult. So during this transition, what is it that I decided to do? I decided to party. So I uh, partied, but not in the way that you think. There was this fab that was out there, this raves and underground parties, and so I did that, and myself, a group of friends, and so made some money with it. And so I was known as the guy that would always be with a suit and tie. And so because I came from real estate, maybe I was, canvassing or showing a house or whatever, and then I would go and, you know, we had a party that night. So I did that for several years, and I like to joke that I did it for a few years that I ended up getting a bachelor's in it, and I got a bachelor's in partying. So when you graduate with a bachelor's in partying, when you walk on stage, you don't get a diploma, you get a baby. So you walk on stage with a baby. So after my bachelor's in partying, I got a baby. Um, so that's pretty much what helped me realize me personally. That's what made me grow up. At the time, I was pretty immature. And so that's what made me realize, okay, I need to go into something that is going to give me a career. And so I took the prerequisites, went into dental hygiene. Okay, after briefly working as a dental assistant. And so in dental hygiene, as you all know, that's a whole other beast. And so you learn how to study, you learn how to read, you learn how to write essays and so on. And so those are things that, as a person that didn't do as good during high school, it was, a eye-opening experience. And so after dental hygiene, I actually applied and I got in. I could say that I got into dental school, but I didn't actually attend. The reason is because my back was already just really bad, my lower back, sciatica, right? Um, and so during this transition, I knew I wanted to continue in dentistry, and so I went into an RDHAP program. Okay, so I did that for many, many years as an RDHAP. Um, at the time, the curriculum for the programs, there was only two programs at the time. They didn't really show us a lot of hands-on, and so you basically had to learn on your own once you graduated, and so that's what many of us did. And so I became pretty successful as an RDHAP. I did it many years as a full timer, and so that's what I do. That's my experience. That's why I like to teach, in the RDHP program at the school that I teach at, because I like to teach our students the mistakes that I did, the successes that I had, and so they can learn from it. And so, although I can't go over everything, okay, because this is not an RDHP program, I can summarize certain things that I think would help you as an RDHAP. Okay. And so I worked with a bunch of different populations, different type of facilities, nursing homes, assisted living, homebound, foster kids, level 14, level 11, subacute. I worked in schools, bunch of different populations, lockdown facility, mental health. And I'm not talking about just going and visiting, actually getting the contracts and working with these facilities. I did that for many years, and then I went back, which I'll go over the reason why I went back in a later video. Not that there was anything wrong. And I got a master's in dental hygiene, the education track. That's how I was able to get a position at the community college that I teach at, which I'll go over. And um, and then eventually get the doctorate in health science, the education track. It's an academic doctorate, it's not obviously a DDS. So now I teach, I'm a full time tenure faculty for the dental assisting program, but I'm also I just say it's the lead faculty because I teach in person for the RDHAP program that we have here, which is a hybrid, half online and half in person. So, why am I creating these videos? Okay. So, I want to share what I know. Okay. I think that everyone should be in RDHAP. Okay. If you decide you don't want to continue and see, underrepresented or special populations, it's okay. It's not for everybody. Okay. But I think everybody should become an RDHAP because at the very least, it's going to make you a much better RDH. Okay. It will give you insight on how to approach your patient, your cases, your presentations, how to evaluate data, public health. And I'm not talking about numbers and raw data. I'm not talking about that. Just being able to see things in a little bit in a different way, not just um, the way that we see it now. Okay. Um, so every video will be different. Every video in this series will have a specific topic, okay? And I will go over how I was able to do it and some other ideas, okay? Um, Tying it all together. Now, some of the things, a few of the things that I want you to just get out of this quick little video, which is just essentially an intro, is use your experience, okay? Whether you just graduated, okay, or whether you've had this certification for many, many years, okay, we all have some kind of experience. We all have networks, knowledge, friendships, spouses, Sanchez, I mean, significant others. And so, use what you've learned for your business, okay? And so let me do something really quick. That way you kind of understand how is it that I teach, okay? First of all, this is not, you can consider it a podcast, but it's not really a podcast. I'm not an influencer. I'm not anything like that. I teach, and the way that I try to teach is I'm giving you the information, the curriculum, the data, and then I'm giving you experiences, examples of what I went through. Since this is not an accredited program or anything like that, the curriculum is not as important. It'll be more about showing you how to accomplish certain things, or at least thinking about how to get to that goal that you're thinking about. And so right now, what I'm going to do is instead of me sharing my screen, I'm going to pop some little things here on the sides as far as my technology goes. And so, business and professions 1925 and 1926 are pretty much mainly 1926. It's like the bread and butter of RDHAPs. Okay. And if I had any tattoos, I would probably put Business and Professions Code 1926 right here. So when somebody asks me, well, what is it that you do? Here, let me show you. Okay. And then the Salvi flag over here. So let me kind of just go over each population. That way you can kind of just see Um, I'll throw a couple things in there, but also mainly how I utilize my experience to be able to access this population. So we're looking at the Business and Professions Code 1926. Um, we'll go over in a different video of the things 1907 and 1908 and all that, what that means, how to dissect that. This is more important for you to just see A through E, okay? So one of the places that we're able to see patients is residences of the homebound. And basically means somebody that can't or has a difficult time leaving their house, right? Um, so how do I reach those people? So the experience that I have, or the things that I've done in the past is um, those that population tends to not go out for various medical reasons, and so they tend to go and congregate. Okay, whether it's online or in person, uh, with populations that have the same condition. Like, for example, there's a conference called Abilities Expo. Instead of disability, is Ability Expo. And so I did that. I was a vendor, I had a booth and stuff. And this is a long time ago. And you actually can get a list of people. People, it's kind of like our CDA, right? Where we have the convention. And so before it was so easy, right? They would give us toothbrushes. Now you got to sit and listen to a speech. We'll apply the same principle, right? Maybe it won't be the actual patients. It might be the family members that are there for the patients. Okay, so that's an example. I would not recommend going door knocking. Hey, do you have anybody that wants their teeth cleaned? Nothing like that. Okay. I did try because that's what I used to do in real estate. I tried flyers and partying. I would mail them out. I think I got one response. Excuse me, one response. So that really, in my case, it wasn't very. It wasn't something that I saw anything that came out of it. Schools. So schools, think about schools. Um, there's different ways of approaching it, but mainly what this is saying, schools, is that if first graders, right? 6 year olds, dental sealants. Okay. There's a lot of whole other thing that you can do. This is a whole video onto itself, but 6 year olds, first graders. So don't just think of unified school districts. Think about charter school, the archdiocese, private schools, um, and so there's so many ways of approaching this. Homeschools, okay? I'm not talking about you're going to go see them at their homes. Maybe they can come to see you. See, just thought about that one. um, so homeschool children, right? There's a whole curriculum online, and so maybe accessing how to market to those people. You're never going to be able to get their information, right? That's totally not doable, but at least you'll be able to know how to market to that, through that medium. Residential facilities and other institutions and medical settings that a residential facility patient has been transferred to for outpatient services. So this is somebody that um, maybe well, they were in a place where they were sick. I'll just simplify it like that. And now they're in another facility, let's just say, but for rehab, for outpatient services. Okay. You could have that between a nursing home and the short term and the long term. Many skilled nursing facilities are attached to assisted living. That's basically a feeder program, right? So you have the independent living, you have the assisted living, and then God forbid, but it happens, they get sick, go next door, buddy, to the skilled nursing facility. And they could be there for short term, or they could be there for long term, maybe even hospice. And so that's an example of what could happen. Another example would be they're sick, whatever the condition is, they're sick, maybe they get transferred to rehab, um, things like that. Okay. Um, Going back a little bit to the residences of the homebound, forgot to mention that it can also include the homeless, because the homeless might be in transitional housing, and usually transitional housing, this is where they have caseworkers that will help them. Um, with applying to Medi-Cal and getting public assistance and so on. So you know that they have Medi-Cal. You know that they're in need. They're homeless. They probably have difficult times doing many things, including getting your teeth cleaned. So that's an example. That's a huge one, as you would imagine right now, because of our homeless situation in California. Dental health professional shortage area. I'm not going to read this whole thing, D, because dental health professional shortage areas refers to essentially two things. It refers to a designated area, like the old fashioned that we call brick and mortar, like a dental hygiene office, and it has to be in a designated area. Okay, whether it's grandparented in or not, it's in a designated area. That population, you can see anybody, whether they're medically compromised or not. You could see an ASA one, or you can see up the ladder of ASA, because it's based on the designation, not on any medically condition that the patient has. The second part of this category D is a federally qualified health center. Federally qualified health center, FQHCs, are community health centers, basically. Okay. Now, the last one will be dental offices. Now, with dental offices, I don't like how they wrote it. It just says period. What does that mean? Office in Beverly Hills, office in a designated area. I don't know. It's up to you how you interpret it, but I would be careful with this. So I finished explaining it, but I wanted to go back to how the experience that I've mentioned has helped me to work with all these populations. So I mentioned residences, and I didn't finish with schools. With schools, before there was a time that I was a TA, teacher's assistant. This is a long time ago for an elementary school, but I went to elementary school, and as an RDH, we visited, right, elementary schools and did the OHI and all of that. And so the reason how I didn't work with schools for too long, but I do have the experience and I can explain it. It's a whole other YouTube video. Is that you need to be a nonprofit if you want to be able to get the contracts to go into public institutions. Okay, so nonprofits are very critical of any for-profit coming in. So we'll come back to that at a later video. Okay. Residential facilities, the experience that I have with residential facilities is because um, I've I've worked, with I've had friends that have been in these situations. Most of us have, right? Maybe they transfer from a hospital to a nursing home, or assisted living to a nursing home. So that's just my personal knowledge that I had from before. And but there is a whole video that we will go over on this is very special marketing. There's ways of doing it, um, how to gather the data, how to do your homework before you go in. Because as soon as you go up to the front door, what is it that they have? No soliciting. What do you do? Right? You can't go in. You're going to solicit. There's ways. Okay, that's where the white coat comes in. But it's obviously nothing illegal. It's all, it has to be done the right way. Okay. The shortage areas, what I like to mention about the shortage areas is that I remember as a kid, um, my parents took me a couple times, and later on, I realized where they were taking me. They were taking me to a county facility or a FQHC, a designated area. And I remember everybody was so nice, and they had so many things. And, my parents didn't really know what it was. I mean, I don't think we even had Kaiser back then. And so I remember, and I have many friends that went through places like this and they got all of their work done. And so these are heavenly places. These are places, there's a term that there's a federal term that they say it's a safety net, and it's completely true. This is such an amazing safety net that for the people that either make too much and they don't qualify, or make too little, and so on, this is such an amazing safety net because there's a big percentage of populations that have difficulty. Quick example, okay? Working as an RDH, I would see federal employees that were on Medi-Cal, okay? In California, Medi-Cal, you don't have to be uh, like in other states where it's super poor. Our poverty line is a little bit higher. And so, can you imagine you're a federal employee and you meet that poverty line? It's a shame. But, anyways, that's just a little taste of it. And then dental offices, we'll go over this. I mean, we all have this experience that I didn't have to give you the whole story of everything else, but with dental offices, we'll definitely discuss um, pros and cons with this scope of authority. So I really hope that this kind of gave you a taste of what the next videos are going to be about. Thank you very much. And also, if you have any questions, you can actually type them in the comment section. And I know that this sounds so cliche, but if you subscribe, oh my God, if you subscribe, you will get the alerts of when the videos will be published. And my goal is to do it every week, but I'll probably end up doing it every 2 weeks. And so remember this, I'm not being paid for any of this. This is just for me to be able to help others, and in any little bit that I can. And so if you have any specific questions, you can write them in the comments, and I will be replying as the weeks go by. And even if it's been a few years that I did this, if I'm still around, I'll reply. So thank you very much.